So this is it. This is the real deal.
Okay.
So this is Bobby Rauen. We're here to talk about solar. And Bobby, usually, like last night I recorded a podcast and I had a couple different cameras there. Lighting was right, videographer, and my wife was taking care of the kids. Tonight, you get the raw end of the stick because we're back to the good old days when I first started this with a stinking cell phone.
Perfect.
No microphones. We were all mic'd up last night, none of that tonight. And I'm on dad duty with the baby monitor. So
It's real life.
yeah, it is real life. This is raw, keeping it real. So I wanted to do this because I went to one of the Stop Solar meetings that you guys did. It was really well put together, really well attended. And I think I actually live streamed for that. Mm-hmm. But there's only like 300 or 400 people that showed up, which is like, the room was packed. It was a great turnout. But there's so much more to the topic that I've been hearing about. And I started this podcast as a way to, like, time with Uncle Sam, right? I started it as a way for people in the community. I wanted a platform that when issues would come up, because they always do, right? This is Dearborn County. This is Southeast Indiana. It's home to a lot of people. Everybody's related or knows somebody who knows somebody. But there's got to be a way for even friends, family, etc., for people to come together and say, let me just talk about the issue. Mm-hmm. We're not taking sides about, this family or this family. Like, so it originally started with my first podcast that I did was in 2020. I think it was March of 2024. And I started off explaining some things that I had learned with the power grip that the current establishment at the time had on government, and it had for some time. And I'd always heard that growing up, but I had gotten what I would say was inside information from the state Republican Party and figured out how that was going on. And so I explained a lot of what was going on with the caucus, people. And I just said, look, I'm not, in my family, I've been Uncle Sam for 20 years. Mm-hmm. I've got nieces and nephews and there's my wife's side, my side, etc. And my wife's side of the family, I've got 3 nieces that are all local. And a common thing is they were in like middle school, high school. Now they're all out of high school. A couple of them had kids. And they're in a different season. But when they were going through high school, a lot of times it would be, we need to talk to Uncle Sam or Aunt Ness about something. And it was a friend at school, a drama thing. How do I handle this? My teacher's mad at me. Something's wrong with the sports team. It was just, the conversations that you have with trusted people. And so I have this idea, like, we've got to have some kind of platform where family can come together and talk about issues. And nobody's trying to get anybody else's case, but we've got to have some kind of platform that we can just talk about issues. And so my first one was recorded with a cell phone at like 11 o'clock at night after I put the kids to bed. My dog, hey Diamond. I think my dog interrupted the video, so he's like laying by the fire on a mat. So this is back to the original gangster days, the OG days of the podcast. So anyway, Bobby Rauen, thanks for coming on time.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
We'll talk about solar. Before we do that, so you and I met, we're in end of February. You and I met like 2.5 months ago, middle of December? Or was it after Christmas?
I think it would have been just after Christmas. I don't think...
Before or after? After Christmas?
After Christmas. Yeah, it would have been after Christmas.
So we've known each other for less than 2 months.
Right. Yeah. I can't remember if it was before or after the first commissioners meeting that we attended. I want to say
it was before, because I think it was I was out doing estimates in your area. I said, hey, I'll swing by your house. Yeah. I'd love to meet you in person. And we talked, and you were going to a commissioner meeting like the next week.
Okay. Or something. Yeah, that sounds about right.
So before we start talking about solar, correct me if I'm wrong, but you've never been involved politically before. Yeah. This is kind of, an issue that hit home, and you found yourself in the middle of, county government doing this.
I think...
Go back before you ever got involved politically. Who is Bobby Rauen? Where'd you come from? Okay. Born, raised, what's your story?
Yeah. Born in Cincinnati. Family moved us out to Hidden Valley in 2002. So 2nd, 3rd grade. Grew up in Hidden Valley. We always we had horses. We kept horses in Morneview, Kentucky. So kind of always grew up on the farm, but lived in town. Went to East Central, graduated East Central. Bought my first house in Yorkville. Okay. Met my wife. We got married. Lived in Yorkville. Had the opportunity to buy this piece of land on Benning Road. Bought it. Sat on it for a while because it was during COVID. Prices were crazy. But
Have they come down much?
It's more stable,
Okay.
at least. Was able to.
I remember in 2020, it was like, hey, I refinanced my house to redo my deck, and it was like a 4x4 deck off the back door. You know,
Well, it was crazy with estimates too. You couldn't get a guarantee on an estimate if you didn't buy it right then, and you waited a day. Price could change. So we had big plans for like a big house and things like that. And we whittled it down. Finally got it to something we were comfortable spending money on. It's a 30 by 40 pole barn house. So pretty small. When we started building it, we didn't have any kids, and by the time we moved in, we had 2 babies, and she was pregnant with the third. So we were already outgrowing the house before we moved into it.
Getting it done.
But it was kind of a dream opportunity. Like I said, always going to East Central. Most of my friends that I became close with, they lived in the country. Some of the original farms in Bright, out in Logan.
Right.
So I always knew that there's no way I'm moving into town. I'm going to be moving out of town.
Cincinnati wasn't in your heart?
Yeah, so the first house was 2 acres, had a pole barn, it was great, but always knew that wanted more, wanted to do some farming, with the opportunity to farm, raise food for my family, and
so how many acres do you guys have out there?
We have 7.5.
Okay.
So
a good size for a little homestead.
Yeah, for sure. We do or whatever, homesteading or subsistence farming, raise and butcher our own pork, chicken. Got chickens for eggs, chicken for meat.
Gotcha.
Do a garden. Buy beef from Marvin Benning right across the road. So obviously we still go to the grocery store, but most of what we consume is right there, and we get to play, get to have a hand in it.
Yeah.
Which is what we want it to be, back to our roots and close to the land.
And the kids are growing up with that.
Yeah, kids are growing up with that. It's totally different from kind of an urban environment. They know where their food comes from, and they understand the process of it. And for us to have life, it includes some messy stuff on the other end. But
it's interesting to me to see. Well, you're in your early 30s.
Mm-hmm.
Same with me, and it's interesting to see just. I think it's the epiphany of coming into your early 30s. It may be different for you, but we're not the kids anymore.
Right.
But for the last 10 years, we've been the kids.
Right.
It's like the young adults.
Yeah.
Like, you'll grow up. And now there's people who are younger than us, who are in their 24, and it's like, dude, you're not my peer. You're 5, 8 years, 10 years younger than me.
I have a hard time reconciling with the fact that I'm a business owner. I'm a husband. I'm a father. I have a house.
It doesn't feel you right.
I still feel like I'm 24. I still kind of think of myself as a kid.
You're like, God, you sure you knew what you were doing when you gave me this?
Right. Yeah. But
I'm in the same boat.
We think we're extremely privileged to be able to do what we do. We think it's an important lifestyle.
Yeah. Yeah. Same. It's interesting to see, the generation younger than us. I guess you and I are Gen Y or something, and then you got the Gen IY, Gen Z is the early, whatever they call it.
Every 2 years is a new generation.
Nah, they got an alphabet for something or other, and then it's something goofy. But point is, you get to a lot of those people in their early 20s or mid 20s even. They look at 8 years down the road, and they're almost more conservative than you and I are politically, and most of it comes from. I want to get off the grid. There's a growing massive number. It's almost like World War II generation is coming back as far as live free from the government. You got the crazy liberal side in that, but then you got this other side that's even more conservative than our generation is.
Yeah, you definitely.
And it's all tied around agriculture, a lot of it.
Returning to the field, or I think the movement's flee to the field.
Yeah.
Historically, thousands of generations of humans lived on the land.
Right.
It's only until really last 150 years that we see the big, cities.
The Industrial Revolution changed that.
And so thousands of generations of culture and heritage has almost been erased in just a few, less than 5 generations.
Right.
We've lost everything that we knew and connected us to creation. And I think people are starting to wake up to that is, living in the city with 24-hour lighting and everything at your fingertips it's manufactured. It's not sincere.
It's exhausting.
It's exhausting, and I think we're seeing that we realize nature and the natural order of things is more important than we ever gave it credit for.
Yeah, especially for home life, raising kids around that.
Right.
Especially with the screens.
Yeah.
Like you just got to be able to have kids
constantly
that
being
get away from that.
advertised to.
Yeah.
Even without the phones, driving down the road, it's exhausting, and be able to come home to where things are no easier, but simple, naturally ordered.
Right. Yeah. So what'd you do? So went to college out of high school or what?
Yeah, I wanted to be a cop. I always wanted to be a cop. So I went to Ivy Tech, got a criminal justice degree because at the time law enforcement was extremely competitive.
Pre 2020.
Yeah, it's different culture now for sure. Law enforcement does not have it easy now.
Mm-mm.
But wanted to be a cop. Wanted to be a cop in my hometown. So Tupper County Sheriff's Deputy was the goal. Spent a few years working in Hidden Valley at the time. That was the best place to start. You're on the road. You respond to real calls. It was the pipeline for getting into the full county.
Right.
But I met my wife and my priorities changed, and I'm kind of I think to be a good cop, you've got to be 100% dedicated to it. It's a huge strain. It's a huge calling, and I just felt that my calling was to be present for my wife, want to build a family.
Right.
And it was a split. I mean, I would still, if it wasn't for that, I think I'd still do it. It's a great job. It's
She
a fun
ruined your
job.
career
It's a rewarding job.
She was totally worth it.
But yeah, totally worth it. And it's a hard lifestyle. Cops don't get paid enough for what they do.
My brother was a cop for 10 years down in Florida, in Pensacola, like Escambia County area, and older brother, my hero. It's like my dad, my uncles, and then like my brother. He's 8 years older than I am. And some of the stuff they got to deal with, it's like, man.
Well,
and that was back when he started out making I think it was like $32,000 a year,
right,
or whatever that was.
And to have, it's a big strain on your family, and then add the economic strain to it as well. Well, we're not rich by any means, but at least being self-employed and doing what I'm doing, I've afforded the opportunity for my wife to stay home and raise our kids. That's the most important place.
Be present.
Yeah. And I can come home from work and I can be present too, because she takes care of everything for the family.
How'd you wind up being self-employed then?
Well, I got out of law enforcement. I thought I wanted to be a plumber. That didn't really work out. Wasn't super interested in that. Kind of went with the name brand outfits, and really not a good opportunity for growth. So I got into utility work. Worked for a couple small rural utilities, St. Leon Wastewater, and then out here at LMS Water. Spent a few years at each. Maybe there's somewhere back in my head there's community service. Working, want to be a cop and then doing the utility work, but again, very hard, very demanding of your time. It's that to be a utility man for these small outfits, it's a lifestyle, and you spend all of your time on call. There's
so 2 a.m.s and
2 a.m. and it's 24/7 because it's you and another guy, and you're responsible that people can flush their toilet or they can turn on their tap, and they're gonna have what they need. So that's a calling. And then again, the money's not great. So after years, probably no less than 7 years of my brother asking me to start a business with him, I finally gave in, and we started a construction company and started from the bottom. I mean,
what was your first project?
Probably skim coating some drywall in this not-for-profit building in downtown Cincinnati. I remember it was
bottom of the barrel.
It was our first week together, and I like to work 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. and get home to my family, and it's 10:30 at night. I'm in downtown Cincinnati, which there's no place it's the last place I would want to be. And I just remember texting my wife, like, I might have made a mistake.
Had you quit your other job
Oh
yet?
yeah, jumped right in, and but from that, we kept our heads down and worked, and the jobs improved. I mean, just crazy stuff. I remember digging holes, replacing like the window wells,
Yeah.
the galvanized pipe that's around a window, and like it raining on us,
And doing those by hand.
and not knowing anything, to landing some better work, and
It just builds.
yeah, no advertisement, just trying to do a quality job, and we've gotten to the point where we're building nice single family homes, high performance homes, and doing additions, and we bought a piece of equipment now, and we're the real deal now. I mean, you
fake it for like a decade, and
Yeah.
you're like, we might actually look like we're doing it.
The work's no easier, but it's paid off for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I still find myself on a job at 9:30 at night, occasionally wondering what I got myself into. But
That's why you're the business owner.
right.
That's why you're the business owner. So all right. So how did you get into the? How's the solar topic come up? When did this first jump? So how long have you guys been living out on Lake Benning then?
Benning
Or
Road.
Benning Road and
yeah.
Lake Tambo, right? That's
Yeah.
the corner. Okay.
For right about 2 years. We moved
Okay.
in before my middle kid's first birthday, and he's about to be 3. So,
All right.
yeah, right on 2 years living there. So with the solar thing, it all started to kind of come together.
What was the main reason you moved out there, by the way? Why did you guys pick that? Was it just the lot that you found? Did you always want to be out that direction?
I knew I would be, if I move anywhere, I'm moving further west. I moved west to Leatherwood, Yorkville area, and then to find ground, you typically have to go out a little bit further.
Right.
So we found this property. We were hanging out, drinking beer with the neighbors, and I said, "Man, I'd like some more land." And they said, "Well, our grandkids would like a house." So their grandkids were able to buy our house. They now live on the same road as their grandparents and parents, and we were able to buy their land. And it's a perfect 7.5 acres. It's rolling topography. We have woods. We have a pond. We have a creek. We've got a garden. We pasture pigs. We've got it all. So, and we've got community too. Something that was unique with Yorkville was the community. We were brokenhearted leaving. Like we were pulling out of our road for the last time, and my wife and I were both crying, and so we were nervous moving.
Yeah.
And didn't take very long meeting the neighbors, and it was like we're in a good spot.
Yeah.
Our neighbor George Bly, he's like everybody's grandpa.
Yeah.
Always
George's
there
awesome
for you.
guy.
Anything you need to borrow. We help each other out. Like I said, we buy beef from Marvin. Marvin has towed me home twice in the last 2 months. We're going through working out some kinks, and you can always call Marvin. And then, my neighbor Travis behind me, we'll get into him more when we start talking about solar, but we're all there
Yeah.
for each other. It's pretty.
York's a really nice area too. I've always thought York was it's just the perfect. Most of Dearborn County is like that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's.
Yeah. I
And
mean,
you
there's
can
a
get
reason.
quick access to the city if you need it, but you're not in the city, and you're out in
There's a
your
reason
way.
people choose to move here. I mean, we were a young married couple. My wife worked for community banks. She had worked her way through the ranks, and we were young. We could have worked anywhere.
Yeah.
Moved, it's America. You could move anywhere.
Yeah.
But we wanted to stay in Dearborn County because we thought it was the best place to raise a family.
Yeah.
And that was our priority. So the solar came to a head. Just we're neighbors. We're engaged. We look out for one another. And one neighbor texted me, I think it was December 1st. He said, "Have you noticed all these white trucks stopping? And white trucks, like a work truck."
Yeah.
I'm like, "No, I haven't noticed anything." And then it was about 2 weeks later, right around December 16th, 17th, at the property east of mine, 2 large dozers got dropped off and an excavator. So you're just paying attention.
Yeah.
And then one day they start cutting in a road, and I mean road. I don't mean driveway. Turns out the road it's 20 feet wide. It's 2,000 feet long.
Dang.
It's massive. That's 40,000 square feet. It's 3,000 square feet short of an acre.
Holy cow.
Yeah, road. Yeah. And to us, that's just like, whoa. What is this? Is this going to be a subdivision? What's going on? So.
And this is just east of you guys, just down the
east.
street, like quarter mile, half mile.
Yeah, within a quarter mile.
Okay.
So we started asking around, asked somebody that looked like they were affiliated with that project. Hey, do you know what's going on here? And they just came out and said, yeah, it's for solar. And we were all sort of taken back, like, it's for solar. We don't know anything about it. So, our first inclination is, well, let's get on the phone. Let's call the building department. Let's call planning and zoning. Dead end. There's nothing going on. No permits, no applications. Well, I guess we'll try the county commissioner. I don't know who to call.
Yeah.
I figured, well, call the officials. That's where we'll start. And, the response from everybody was, to date, it's a rumor. We don't know. There's no applications. Clearly, it was more than a rumor to us.
Yeah.
How
How many truckloads of gravel does that take to build?
About 3 days with numerous trucks running around, during 7 to 4 while the quarry's open. It was constant.
Wow.
Yeah, you could hear them coming down Lake Tambo as they crossed the bridge. Boom, just constantly.
You got like 100 semis come in there?
Oh, I'm sure we could.
200 loads?
I think probably.
Wow.
We could try and figure out the yardage on it, but if you've put gravel down your road before, you know that
It never really goes as far as you
that
think it's gonna go.
$800 that you just spent on a load of gravel, and you say that's all I got.
Yeah, I know.
So, for us, it was very much a reality. So we just started asking around, and we spoke with one neighbor, and they said, yeah, we were actually approached by a solar company. I think we have their information. It's been a couple of years, and they dug through some junk drawers, and they found the name of
The company.
company. And sure enough, we get on their website, and there's this interactive map. I think it's under the case studies tab, and it says Sunman Solar, and it's right there, our little corner of Indiana. Sunman Solar, 195 megawatt facility, solar and BESS, battery energy storage systems. So
195 watts,
195 megawatts.
megawatts.
Yeah. So
How do you, to somebody who doesn't understand that, what does that even mean?
Right. We had no idea what it meant. So, you Google it. This technology is always changing, so it's hard to isolate a number. But we were in the ballpark of looking at somewhere around 1,500 acres.
1,500 acres of solar.
Yeah, for reference, Hidden Valley Lake subdivision, lake included, I think might be like 1,700 acres. So it's in the ballpark of that
Same size of Hidden Valley Lake community.
Yeah.
Which is a little bit shorter, smaller.
Right. So.
Holy cow.
So then we start looking into this company. They're called Linnea Energy. Okay, well, why haven't we heard about this? Get on Facebook, you look them up. Well, things start to come together. We see where they were a contributor to our 4-H fair. They were one of 2 platinum sponsors, the casino and Linnea.
Okay.
So we're like, oh, this is probably it. And if nobody knows what's going on, we should probably bring it to their attention.
Yeah.
Where do we start? Yeah, I didn't know a commissioner from a planning commissioner, from a BZA, from a redevelopment, from anything. With people's guidance, they said you should bring it up to the commissioner. So on January 6th, we organized all of our evidence, and we went down there to say, hey, this is more than just a rumor. This is a reality, and we would like to get out ahead of it because it's not something that we want on our agricultural ground.
Right.
So at that point, it was
How many people were involved by that point of January? Is it just you and a couple neighbors?
yeah. When we found out that it was for commercial solar, I called just the immediate. It'd be to be 5 neighbors,
Okay.
and we got together, in one of the neighbors' houses, and we're like, what do we do? Actually, before all that, when we were still trying to figure out what to do, we knew that we needed time, had to buy time.
Right.
Because obviously this was going on well before we knew about it. So my neighbor Travis and he was talking to somebody, and somebody said, you got to get a moratorium. Roger that, we'll get a moratorium.
What's a moratorium?
Well, at the time we didn't know, but we knew we needed one. And it turns out, whoever told Travis that was right, because a moratorium is a pause. It's a formal pause.
Okay.
So what we're decided we were going to do was draft a petition to request a moratorium on accepting any applications for commercial solar energy systems. And with the fruit of that moratorium would be that we would have time to review and amend our Article 19 solar energy ordinance.
There's already a current ordinance in different counties.
So Travis and I, without knowing anything, went over to his barn and drafted a petition. Printed a bunch of them out, created a change.org petition, and just try to start informing people that, all we knew at the time was something's happening and we don't know what, and we should have a pause. So then we had the meeting with the neighbors, and we knew we were going to go to the planning commission, and by the time it was 7 or 9 days since we started the petition, and in the digital format we had over 1,300 petitioners for that first meeting.
Wow. Those are all Dearborn County people?
It's change.org. You being completely transparent, there was definitely some spam. Donald Trump signed it. I don't think it was really Donald Trump. And I definitely saw some stuff.
It was amazing. It was the best signature.
It was probably the best petition you've ever seen.
That's why I signed it.
Yeah, it's a great deal, but the overwhelming majority were locals.
Okay.
And more so than anything, it was to show that people are concerned about it.
Right.
It's
so you guys started a Facebook page now?
Yeah, we started a Facebook page, and the main thing was just we felt like we had to justify our concern.
Right.
That it wasn't just like fear-mongering or rumors, but it's a reality, the evidence is there,
okay,
and we want to know what's going on.
Right.
And I think since then we've seen a lot of instances local where, and by local I mean like Mount Orem, where things go on behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And I'm not including our government in this. I just mean the mode of operation for these companies are often without the public knowing. And in this case, I believe also without our government knowing. It's sort of in their best interest, I think, to do as much as they can on the back end, on the front of it, without people knowing. To when they're ready to pull
You're talking
the
about the
trigger.
energy companies?
Yeah, the developers. So when they're ready to pull the trigger, they've already got steps 1 through 5.
Well, I mean, that's smart for any business. I mean, if they're going to line everything up and bust it out. I mean, it's just.
So after that first commissioners meeting, we were told that this moratorium would have to be presented to the planning commission.
Okay.
They would have to make a recommendation.
So that's January 6th of the commissioner meeting?
Correct.
We
had missed the deadline for the January meeting for the planning commission.
Okay. So
we were put on the agenda for February 23rd.
All right.
At the time of recording this, right around the corner.
Monday night, right?
Monday night.
Monday night.
So in that time, we understand that we need a moratorium, we need a pause, we need to look at our current ordinance, because after reviewing the current ordinance, we found it to be lacking securities, not just for adjacent landowners, but everyone involved. the county at large, the leaseholders, everyone. There's not a ton of security. Like for instance, there's no maximum allowable acreage, which means
What does that mean?
as much ground as these guys could lease, they could potentially develop. If they're able to meet the conditional use requirement, that they could develop not only in Manchester Township, but anywhere that would suffice for them. So, there's tons of open ground in the Morris Hill and the Dillsboro area, down around 50, down along 350, up in St. Leon. So I think regardless of what side you're on of this, it
may not just be in
well, it should
Manchester.
Nobody wants to see an entire county turn into it. And if it happens in Manchester Township, we would start the precedent to where it could be developed anywhere.
Right.
So, that's a huge thing. And we also want to protect our farmland. Like we were talking earlier, I think we're going to see a revitalization in Dearborn County of people who want to be tied to agriculture.
Yeah.
If we burn up this land on industry that should be in an industrial zone, not on agricultural land, we're going to miss out on the growth that Dearborn County wants.
Right.
And the growth that Dearborn County wants is outlined in the Dearborn County Comprehensive Plan.
Right.
And that's our goal. That's our long-term goal. That's our guiding principle.
That's the one that the community had input on.
Right. Yeah.
So January 6th happens. You realize you missed the date. You're February 23rd. So you're basically 6 weeks out from this.
Right.
When was your first public meeting where you started you going from living rooms and talking to people and 20 people involved to your first meeting was at the Manchester Firehouse?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I don't remember.
That was after your
It
commissioner
was
meeting,
after the commissioners meeting.
and that was your first, and you kind of put out to the public.
Our first town hall, and what prompted that was we went to the recorder's office and we found leases for these solar leases, for commercial solar leases, and what we found had totaled over 800 acres, 823, 827 acres, and we plotted that on a map to see what we were looking at, and it's public record. And at this point, we felt that we needed all the evidence we could get, because at the time, it still seemed like because they hadn't informed Dearborn County yet, government works in an official manner. Without government being informed of it, very hard to make a case. So we have to make the case. So we published a map. Okay. And it was on a Saturday. It was actually a Saturday that I took delivery of our excavator for work. So you can imagine the excitement.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like
myself,
new kid on Christmas.
Yeah, myself and my middle kid, my boy runs out, and he thought it was for him. He runs out. He's like, the guy was unloading off the trailer. And he runs. He goes, "That man bought me my excavator." And I'm like, "Well, Daddy did, but whatever. It's not yours. It's mine."
I remember the first day. So I bought a mini skid. It was like my first big machine. And I got out of bed and I went over to the window and I looked out and I just wanted to look down at it. And my wife, she's still in bed. She's like, just checking to make sure it's still there. I said, I had a dream that I bought it and I own one. I just want to make sure that it was a reality.
Yeah.
She's like, I finally got one. I don't have to use a manual post hole digger anymore for you or backbreaking work.
It's a big deal. Equipment will make you money, but it's a big toy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My dad said that.
I kind of had that realization. I think, here recently I was on it. Me and my son were just putting stumps on a burn pile, and I thought, man, I'm sitting in my excavator with my son on my property. It's unreal.
It's real, yeah.
5 years ago, that would have been the dream.
Yeah.
And it was nice that I was able to take a moment to pause and recognize, we're doing it.
Yeah.
But at any rate, it was the day I took delivery of that that our story really broke. A family had the wife had gotten on Facebook, and she, I guess, was following our page, or somebody had shared this map that we posted, and she looked at it and said, that's our house. She saw their house there. And their house, I should have brought a map, but their house will be surrounded on 3 sides and a portion of the front. They have a 3-acre lot, and they'll be completely surrounded by solar under the current ordinance if this project moves forward.
Wow.
And they had just moved in. They had moved from
Similar story to you guys, young
moved
family.
from Aurora. They thought this was going to be perfect. 3 acres, beautiful old farmhouse, well taken care of.
Out in the country.
Out in the country. Even thought, and I was the same way. I moved in next to a 165-acre field.
Yeah.
It was being farmed. You hear the average age of farmers just going up, and me being a young guy, always wanting to be a cowboy. I thought you romanticize it a bit and think, well, maybe I'll be able to buy 50 acres.
Yeah.
And actually do it. I say all the time, I want to buy an Alice Chalmers WD-45 and start doing hay.
Yeah.
I want to do hay. I know it's hard work, but it's rewarding.
Yeah.
At any rate, this family, they had the same thing. They were even under the impression that maybe they could buy some of this land, and they wake up and they're devastated. And she puts out this post, kind of asking people to take pause. It's a longer post. Please read it. And struck a chord. We're no longer just talking about a map and acreage. We're talking about people's homes.
Yeah.
And the way she put it, it was very obvious that this was a big deal. So everything took off to the point to where we weren't able, the small group that we had assembled, were not able to keep up with the questions coming in. And we thought, well, we've got to get this more public.
Right.
So with about 48 hours notice, we got a hold of the fire chief and said, can we use your building for a town hall? And he's like, absolutely. So I called a sign store. Hey, can we get some signs made? And I need them now. And she jumped right on it. We were able to get 200 signs made with no time at all. And we had about 150 people show up to that first town hall.
Wow.
It was a nasty night. It was colder than the Dickens. Snow was blowing. But 150 people showed up because they care and they're worried about the future of their county.
Yeah.
I think with the information we had at the time, it was very informative. Kept it as factual as we could.
So that's like the second or third week of January? A week or two
it
after
would have been the second week or so
commission meeting?
in January. And we kept it as factual as we could. Now, obviously, that's hard to do when nothing has been out in the open, nothing has been transparent. We're connecting dots.
Right.
Like good old-fashioned police work. We're investigating it.
So you're doing police work, but just for yourself and not getting paid
just a
for
little
it,
bit different. Yeah. Like being a cop doesn't make much money. This doesn't make much money either.
Zero, right?
It's more important than a paycheck. So that was the first town hall. We had a really good turnout. Obviously, that helped this movement gain some legitimacy.
Right. So after that, then what did you? Has it just been the last 2 or 3 weeks? I mean, Monday night is the big deal, or a big deal. You could either potentially get your moratorium or not get your moratorium.
Yeah, Monday night would be, we're hoping for a favorable recommendation.
Okay.
For it to go before the commissioners. The commissioners called a special meeting for the 24th to make their decision.
Okay.
On the moratorium. So come Tuesday we'll know if we'll be given the opportunity to take a look at our ordinance.
So is there anything more that's educational that's happened as far as what's going in potentially? Do you know what the solar's for? Is it for energy here? Is it for energy north? I mean,
so pretty early on we understood that our fight's not with any particular developer,
right?
Because the developer, the Linnea that's working on the Summon Solar project, they could drag up tomorrow and we're still in the same boat for the next developer.
Right.
So it's not a beef with any individual developer. We want something that is good for Dearborn County.
Right.
But as far as there's no getting away from the elephant in the room. Since that first town hall, Linnea has had their own event. They've tried to start informing people that they have been working on a project and acquiring leases for years at this point, and they'll also be present for this planning commission meeting to, I guess, give some sort of statement. So beyond a doubt, Lenny's been interviewed by several news outlets. They're saying, initially they said 1,200 acre development. Now they're saying maybe around 800. So it's still not exactly clear what the Summit Solar project is going to look like. But people had the opportunity to go down to Lawrenceburg this past week to ask questions.
Do you have any idea where? So your issues with the current zoning law or the whatever?
Yeah.
You said
Ordinance.
The current ordinance. So let's say that this goes through and they put 800 acres in. Is that the limit, or can other companies come in with the way things are?
Yeah, that could just be the start.
Do you know where that energy would be going? Is it for local?
No, there's nothing in the ordinance that requires it to be kept local, sold local.
I keep hearing more about. I don't know if it's what I'm clicking on. Like your news feeds on your social media, but a lot of this stuff around AI data centers.
Right.
And I don't understand if AI data centers is like legit. We need storage for Chat GPT, or I don't know what goes into all of this stuff. But
the consumer sort of gets blamed for the demand on artificial intelligence, by creating the cute little pictures of your lifestyle or whatever that trend that is going around, or asking Chat GPT how many bottle caps fit in a 12-ounce Coke can. I don't think that's what actually plagues it. I've heard arguments that it's the medical field and that it's government and it's cloud and it's these.
It's all above my head. I would love to interview somebody.
I think the concern of solar as to its relation with data is relevant because we see we're starting to see them kind of going hand in hand. Franklin County is just imposed a moratorium on data centers because that was this week.
Okay.
Ripley County again just did a moratorium on solar. They had a moratorium on solar, I think, 2 years ago, in order to draft an ordinance. And with everything that's been developing across the state, the commissioners themselves took a look at their ordinance and said, "Hey, we think this is really inadequate," and motioned for another moratorium. And they've got a pause to revamp it. And that's something we've been transparent with.
So what is a moratorium?
It's just a pause. It is
for what? What purpose?
To take a pause to look at the current ordinance to make any changes that would be necessary. Okay. We can't do it indefinitely.
Are there any specific changes that you want to look at, or you just want to have the community have?
I'm not really.
You haven't got to that point yet, or you already have?
We could give recommendations, but the whole point of the moratorium would be to have pause to discuss.
Okay.
What recommendations, what changes should be made. And that's something we've been clear about too, is at some point the county was proactive and drafted an ordinance on solar. It was 2021, which is pretty early on in the solar game. But it's also technology, and we know how quickly technology evolves.
Yeah.
In 2021, it was probably a great ordinance. Just like an iPhone 4 was probably a super great phone.
Yeah.
Now we're up to, I don't even know how many iPhones. It's technology. It changes really fast. It's something that we need to be on top of. A year ago, if we were having this conversation, I don't think we'd even mention data. I don't know if anybody knew about data centers a year ago.
I don't know if they did.
And now they appear to be popping up, or the talk of them at least appears to be popping up everywhere.
So I was just watching something from, is it James O'Leary or something? He's I think he's a bald guy, some finance business dude. I think that's the name. And he was talking about data centers. It was a reel I saw today. And he said the majority of data centers that he's looked at that people have applications for never end up going in because they start getting on the phone. He's talking as like an investor. And he goes, these people call that we want to put a data center here. And they start calling around with the utilities, the power grid or whatever else. And most of them can't get according to him, that was the video I
Mhm.
saw today. They can't get the solar, and he was talking
The power
about
that's
nuclear.
required.
He was talking about nuclear being able to being a way to power that, and how much nuclear energy it takes, and how many nuclear power plants. And so, just it's an interesting. I never thought about this.
Yeah,
You know,
it seems to be somewhat of a web as far as which one, what came first, the data or
Right.
the solar, because you'll hear that they're going to come in, they're going to lower your utility cost. I haven't seen the actual data that it does lower the utility cost. They may say we intend to lower utility costs, we plan to, but without actually
history is paved with people with good intentions.
right. And same thing, if we hear that we're not meeting the requirements of energy as it is with the infrastructure we have in place, yet there's talk of these data centers going in everywhere. What's gonna feed those? Is it gonna be this alternative energy that you want to put in that you say is gonna be better for the community? Because I promise you these data centers will probably pay more than a consumer. And
Probably.
people get in business to make money.
So let me ask you this. Before any of this talk came up on solar, did you have a stance on solar? Because I think when you first reached out to me, people had said, "Hey Sam, what do you think about solar?" And I'm going, "Well, I don't know. I got a buddy that has it on his house and he loves it." Did you have an opinion of solar?
I farm. I do rotational grazing. I like to keep deer on my garden. I use solar energizers for my fences.
Okay.
And I buy quality stuff, Premier One, Gallagher, but it also.
So you use solar yourself?
Yeah, it also has its limitations.
Right.
So for personal use, no, it's. I have no opinion on it, and I never really considered commercial use in Dearborn County.
I was surprised to hear about
to
it, and
me,
I never
it was-
really
it
thought
was,
I'd be thinking about that.
sort of
conversation.
a problem for our western neighbors out, in the desert where
Right.
the sun shines, where it doesn't snow, where there's fewer cloudy days.
Yeah.
It never crossed my mind here, because Dearborn County, it's even unlike our neighbors to the north in Indiana, these northern counties where you have thousands of acres of open farmland, where if you wanted to develop a 1,000-acre solar field, you could do it and it would still remain isolated.
Yeah.
In
'cause it's so
Dearborn County,
rural.
we don't have. I think maybe the largest parcel of land that's been leased for the Summon project is 165 acres before it runs into another adjacent property.
Right.
So you're talking about doing these huge industrial systems in and amongst people's homes. Now, you've never seen a coal-fired plant next to somebody's house.
Yeah.
It's in an area that's zoned for that use.
Right.
So I don't think it really crossed anybody's mind. I think there might have been writing on the wall with other counties doing moratoriums. 72 out of 92 counties in Indiana have done moratoriums on solar.
Currently, or they've done in the last few years or
Yes.
whatever it is.
I can't speak to which ones are still, because
But they've
it
done
can't
that.
be indefinite, right? So they expire at some point. I don't know which ones have expired, but 72 of 92 have done it.
Wow.
So I think there's a little bit of writing on the wall there, but at the same time, why would they come to Dearborn County? It doesn't make sense, because you'd have to build it in and amongst a community.
So, what are you're obviously opposed to this going in right in your backyard.
Mhm.
What are your three biggest concerns if it were to pass? What are the three topics of discussion or debate of what are the cons to this?
Well, I hate to see good, viable, prime farmland given up for this.
Why?
These leases are 30 years with possible two 10-year renewal periods. You're cutting an entire generation out that could come in and farm this land, take care of this land, maintain this land, and keep alive a culture, a tradition that's been going since God put us in the garden,
Right.
to keep and till it. That's our jobs.
Does have is it possible for, or is there a concern that if once solar goes in, does it ever go back to farm ground, or what?
There's a real concern. You know, there is. It would have to be decommissioned. Have to be decommissioned properly.
What does decommission mean?
Taking it out of service and removing it. So we're going to spend
So you're hoping
hundreds of millions of dollars to install this system, with the acknowledgement they don't own the land, and it has a shelf life of 30 years, and then we're going to spend millions of dollars removing that infrastructure. To me, it's transient. Why would we upset our farming community that's been farming in Dearborn County for generations? There's farms that have been, you're on the third, you're on the fourth, you're on the fifth generation that's been farming that land.
Yeah.
We're going to take them out of the game for one whole generation for a transient energy source that we could probably put somewhere else that's more benefit, that's going to not interfere with orderly development.
So what happens after that? They do another solar farm? Does it turn into subdevelopment?
So they say that it can be decommissioned and go back to its original use. There's concerns about the land sitting fallow. They'll say, "Oh, that gives the land time to rest." If you're rotational grazing, yes, rest is important, but it's short periods of rest. It's short periods of disturbance, short period of rest, and repeat.
Right.
That's good for the land. It's sitting fallow for 10 years. There are studies.
Turn into a forest.
Yeah, there's studies from Purdue that your input, when you go back and you go to put your corn, your soybean, your hay, the amount of money you'll have to spend to fertilize that ground to get it back to its production rate with its neighbors is going to make it financially very difficult to make any money on it for a while. So you get that
So
back up.
what's probable that turns into?
Well,
are you looking at 800 acres of subdevelopments in high density housing 20 years from now?
Well,
and what happens if, is it a concern that if a storm comes in and wrecks all this stuff?
Well, it's a concern that it doesn't get decommissioned. There are bonding requirements. However, I don't know if we have any indication that there's ever been a solar plant that is closed up and actually followed through with decommissioning, because they act like it's just pulling these things out of the ground and the time. Well, we already know there's over an acre. There's an acre of road that's been put in. There's gravel there.
And all the topsoil got scraped off.
The topsoil got scraped off, which we can circle back to some of that maybe later. You're going to have wires that are buried, and they're talking, maybe 36 inches. So that ground has to be disturbed. You're going to mix topsoil with clay. You're going to bury that, and then you're going to dig it back up in 30 years. And you're going to mix that again. This fallow land, you're then going to come in there and disturb it, and not for the better. Once you remove these posts, you're left with a void. And that soil you're going to be mixing the strata that you've worked so hard for the last 30 years to build.
And who's going to come in with that kind of money? Farms are hard enough to buy
right.
now,
And then,
as is.
so
somebody
right now
have
you
land.
have farmers competing to lease ground in Dearborn County to farm. You close up shop on 1,200 acres, there's going to be a farm that has to close. It's going to have to fold. There's not enough farmland as it is for everybody to keep farming, and we're going to take 1,200 acres off the table for a generation.
How many?
Then who's going to infill?
Do you know how many acres of farm ground exist in Dearborn County?
No, not off the top of my head. No.
Oh,
But yeah, it's a real concern that if we allowed Manchester Township, I think it creates a precedent to allow it somewhere else, and we keep removing thousands of acres of farmland. We're going to lose the farmer in Dearborn County.
Do you know if the power is for local stuff, or is it going?
No, there's nothing to indicate it's going to be used for local.
So if it's a good spot for an 800 acre farm, what's wrong with 5 of those going in, and you got 4,000 acres of solar 20 years down the road with 10 different companies. I mean, is there any limit then in the current?
No, there's no limit. So then you remove all that farmland. You erase the farmer from Dearborn County. Say this is decommissioned. Say it's decommissioned the correct way without any sort of contamination. Who's going to infill that? Who's going to be the farmer in 57 years to farm that?
My guess would be the developer.
I mean, it'll probably be that or a foreign interest. And we already know we're losing farm ground to major corporations.
Most of these solar companies, are these owned by private equity firms? Are they foreign companies? Are they local small businesses that have grown?
Local small business. Don't be fooled by the project name being Summon Solar and the lease being Summon Solar. It's got nothing to do with Summon. It's a company from California.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So what is, you talk about the current ordinance being changed. What happens if this moratorium doesn't get passed and the current thing is there?
Yeah, if we don't get a moratorium and this developer decides to move forward with the project and submit an application, it will ultimately wind up at the Board of Zoning Appeals, and they'll have to acquire a conditional use permit.
Okay.
There's criteria they have to meet for that, most of it being like life safety stuff implemented. Are there placards? Is there an address? Can fire trucks get there? And we have real concern over.
That was one of the things that was brought up, and I don't remember who it was. I think it was somebody in the crowd that had said, what happens if these catch on fire? I never thought of solar panels catching on fire. Is that even I guess you can have an electrical fire.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, I might be using the wrong study.
Who pays for that tax base? Do these bring in enough tax base to have local fire departments be able to respond if there's a situation like that?
Yeah, the ordinance doesn't outline who would pay for the equipment, who would pay for the training for the first responders. So that would be a good thing if we get a moratorium to discuss. Hey, how are we going to structure making sure that our first responders are
properly taken care of,
trained. Good reason to pause.
Hey, Diamond. Oh, we can keep going. He likes being on camera. So if that happens, is there any other? I guess my question is this. So I'm still learning a lot of issues on county government. Diamond, hey, what are you doing, bud? I'm still learning a lot of issues on county government. If you don't get the moratorium on Monday night, is there an issue where there's basically no way to deny an application if they meet all the current things? Or if they do and they do get denied, then you can get in a lawsuit. I mean, I've heard of that happening in other areas, and then
they would still have to meet the criteria in that conditional use, and it's hard to say if we would be able to stop it. And it's with the moratorium, it doesn't have to be a hard stop on this project. It's
just
a moment
to
pause
and say, okay,
and
we need to take
see
a
what
closer
we
look.
need to safeguard our community.
Yeah, and get community. But
otherwise, it becomes a yes or no. And
do you have a lot of people who want to be involved in a conversation? I mean, is it 10 people? Is it 100 people who want to have input in this? I mean, basically, you had 400 people at the last meeting.
I think people want to be represented.
Okay.
So it depends on how they feel if they feel they're represented, then it's probably a lot less people that want to be involved in the conversation.
Right.
If you feel like they're not being represented, you're going to have, we're probably well over 2,000 petitioners. You're going to have 2,000 people that want a seat at the table.
Right.
And make sure that their interest is represented. I would recommend with the moratorium, when we look at the ordinance, it needs to be done with like a citizen advisory board, just the way that we've done things in the past. We drafted our Dearborn County Comprehensive Plan with a citizen advisory board. It's what makes sense. It's a representative government.
Right.
For the people, by the people.
Right.
It's not a controversial ask.
Right. So what is, in closing up here, what is, people are watching this and they go, man, I didn't even know any of this. They haven't been to the Manchester meeting or the Sumner meeting, etc. How do people get involved at this point?
We've got a Facebook page, Stop Commercial Solar, Dearborn County. We have a website, stopsolardc.com. We've made ourselves pretty easy to find. There's yard signs everywhere.
I've been noticing those popping up.
Yeah, it doesn't take long to find somebody that knows me and has my number now. I'm an open book. People can text me or call me. The main thing I want to do is let people know what's going on and get this to a point to where we don't have to feel like we've been taken advantage of and that we didn't have an opportunity to be heard.
Cool. Monday night. Where is that at? When is it
Monday
at?
night,
What's
6 p.m., the South Dearborn High School Auditorium.
Okay.
Get there early, and let's follow the rules. They want it to be polite and respectful. We have been since the beginning.
I've heard a lot of positive feedback about your meetings.
Yeah, can't say that everybody's been transparent. We've tried to be as transparent as possible, and like we addressed the commissioners at that first meeting, that we felt they were proactive with that first ordinance. We're trying to be proactive. It's not anyone against anything or anybody. It sounds like a cliche, but we're really looking at it as we're working together.
Right.
So that's what we hope to do, is work together, get this favorable recommendation Monday night, and move it to the commissioners on Tuesday, and they'll obviously hopefully vote in favor of enacting the moratorium, and we can sit down and have another discussion about what we're going to do moving forward.
Awesome. Anything else you want to add, or is that kind of covered?
That's good. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Well, so if you guys have enjoyed this, it's conversations like this that 10 years from now, there's going to be something else that comes up. And there needs to be a platform where people can sit down, and the third person can be the dude sitting on the toilet who's watched this for 45 minutes, or on a couch late at night, or on your lunch break, or whatever else, because people, you've put a bunch of time into this.
Yeah.
I don't have time. I get people calling me all the time. Hey, what's going on? I'm like, call Bobby. Here's his number. Call Bobby. And people still call me back. And so that's one of the other reasons I wanted to do this, is to go on YouTube and watch the video. Text it to somebody, email it to somebody, post it on social media. That way people can get, obviously there's other people involved other than yourself, but people can get at least your perspective of, a coffee table experience, and 5,000 people can watch this.
Right.
You don't have to have 5,000 1-hour
Yeah, and hopefully it creates something, even bigger than it. I think a blessing that's come out of this is kind of a rejuvenation to our community.
Yeah.
We're not bashful. We love meeting neighbors, but we never would have met half the people that we met with this. So, hope to develop a stronger community, a stronger county, and, kind of create a group that we can always stay on top of the issues. I think we've allowed ourselves to kind of isolate. We moved to the country because we want to enjoy nature and be left alone.
Yeah.
Well, that has its faults. We need to be involved. If there's one thing I've learned, it's we have to be involved.
Yeah.
And I want to stay involved. I want to stay engaged. I want to keep our community strong, and hopefully this just grows to where even once the solar's behind us, we're unified moving forward, and we stay on top of issues. I
agree 100%. It was actually about a month ago. I came home and told my wife something. I was up at the cafe up on Route 1 and meeting with some other gentlemen, and you and your wife pulled up for coffee or whatever. I think it was snow outside.
Yeah.
And we're out in the gravel parking lot talking. And I just remember stepping back and thinking, this is the way America's supposed to be.
100%.
Like, I just looked at, I was a part of the conversation too, but I took a step back and I saw your wife, your 3 little kids, the other gentlemen that were there talking with you, and I pay attention to power structures. That's what I recognized when I first got involved in politics here. I was looking to get involved at the state level, and I looked at things going on in Dearborn County, and I thought that there's a clear unbalance here of power and control. We need to level this playing field to where the grassroots has power and control, not just the people who've been in office for 20, 30 years, they keep recycling. And I remember taking a step back from that and just looking, we're not even at Dearborn County Courthouse. But I remember thinking, this is the government right here.
Yeah.
None of these people are in office, but the network that you were building, the conversations that somebody else was having, the connections somebody else had, like it was literally a conversation happening in a gravel parking lot
Right.
about what's going on in Dearborn County. And I just remember looking at that and I go, this rivals the establishment. This is a grassroots that's forming that rivals whoever else is in control. Because when there's connection and there's community and there's neighbors who talk to each other and there's trust, those people don't have to be in office.
Right.
They just need to be able to pick up the phone call and say, hey, did you hear about this project going on? Yeah, we should probably go ahead and get control of our government real quick.
Right.
And when you guys, 3-4 months ago, there was no connection. I don't think you guys knew each other. And
Right. Yeah.
I don't even know if you remember who I'm talking about.
Yeah,
but
no, the guys at the coffee shop know that we absolutely never would have recognized one another.
And you wouldn't have even had, if you had an issue, you wouldn't have had a phone call to pick up.
Mhm.
And I just thought, it was a breath of fresh air. It's just the last 4 or 5 years. 4 years of the Biden administration and all the liberal stuff that was shoved down our throats, the fiscal irresponsibility, a mess of foreign policy. Just, there's so many things that we can talk about that were just, you sit there going, am I watching the end of this republic?
Mhm.
Am I the generation that it falls apart when it was handed to me? And here,
Right.
hey, here's your rotting country. Here you go, and it's going to die on your watch. And it just gave me so much hope and so much belief
Mhm.
that the idea of America can last another generation.
Yeah.
Because relationships are formed, trust is built, people are paying attention, they're learning how the process of county government works, and
I think
they're paying attention.
I've certainly learned that you have to be involved, and being involved in this process as I have been, it's like being on a different side of something, or putting on glasses where you see things totally different. And our generation especially, we need to pick up the torch. A lot of the people that's in our group are fighters. They fought other big issues in the history of Dearborn County. They fought for things for agriculture on the state level, the county level, and they've done so for a long time. And they've been very gracious to hand, the younger people in this group the torch and said, this is your fight. It's time that you do it. And to, relinquish that power, they're more qualified to handle this. They've done it. But they understand that if we want to keep it, we have to fight for it. And they're letting us sort of take that place. And yeah, it's definitely going to be something I think a lot of us keep up with moving forward. And we're going to be involved for a long time.
Well, hey, you're now officially been interviewed on a podcast on
the
camera.
first podcast.
Thanks for coming on, man.
Thanks for having me.
Appreciate you.